In this section, we're going to be multiplying polynomials. So let's look at the first example. We have 5x squared times 4x to the third. Here you want to multiply the numbers in front separately, so 5 times 4. And then multiply the variable, so x squared times x to the power of 3. So let's look at the first set, 5 times 4, that's 20. And when you multiply variables, we add them. So we get x to the power of 5. Now let's look at another example. We have negative 3x cubed y squared times 4xy to the fifth. So let's group factors with like base together. So negative 3 times 4. Then we've got x to the third times x. And then we've got y squared times y to the fifth. Because they have the same base, we can multiply them. Negative 3 times negative 4, negative 12. X to the third times x would be x to the third plus 1, which would give us x to the fourth. Now we have y squared times y to the fifth, which would be y to the power of 2 plus 5, which would give us y to the seventh. Now we're going to look at an example of multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. So we have 5 parentheses 2x squared plus x plus 4. Kind of like the distributive property, we just have to multiply the 5 times each term inside the parentheses. So we have 5 times 2x squared, which would give us 10x squared. 5 times x, which would give us 5x. And then 5 times 4, which would give us 20. Now we're going to look at an example of multiplying binomials. We have x plus 2 times x minus 5. What you want to do is you want to follow FOIL. So you want to multiply the first terms first. So the first term in each parentheses. So x times x. So we know that x times x would give us x squared. Then you can use the second letter in FOIL is O, so that means the outer term, so the second term in each parenthesis, so 2 times negative 5, which would give us negative 10. Then you want to multiply the inner terms, so you want to do 2 times x, which would give us 2x. And finally, you want to multiply the last terms. So you want to multiply the first x times the last term, which is the negative 5. So we know that x times negative 5 will give us negative 5x. And now we can see that we have some like terms in this equation, so we can simplify it a little further. So we end up with x squared, and then we add the 2x plus the negative 5x, giving us a negative 3x minus 10. Now we're going to look at something kind of similar to this, except we're going to be multiplying polynomials now. So we have x plus 2 in parentheses times x squared minus 5x plus 4. So what you want to do here is you want to multiply the x in the first parentheses by all 3 terms first. So let's do x times x squared. And x times x squared would give us x cubed. X times negative 5x would give us negative 5x squared. X times 4 would give us 4x. And then we want to use the second term in the first parentheses times all 3 terms in the second one. So let's start by 2 times x squared, which would give us positive 2x squared. Then 2 times negative 5x would give us negative 10x. 2 times 4 would give us 8. And now we can look at the equation that we have and see if there's any like terms. Let's start with the highest degree. We see that we have an x cubed, and there are no other like terms, so we can just rewrite the x cubed. Next, we look at the second highest degree. We see that we have like terms, negative 5x squared and 2x squared. So we can add them together. Negative 5x squared plus 2x squared equals negative 3x squared. Now we can look at the 4x. we do have a like term with that, and that would be the negative 10x, so we can add those two together. That would make it negative 6x, and then the 8 is just by itself, so we can bring it down, and that is the simplified version of multiplying polynomials.